My name is Juventino Martinez, and my 335 project idea was memory diary. So my project idea came to me when I was taking some pictures when we were going hiking in Sedona, and I realized that we didn't know exactly where we took some of the pictures whenever we went back and looked at all the pictures we took. So I was thinking that it'd be really cool if there was an application where you can somehow take a picture or save a memory, and then it captures the exact location, so you could go back to the same spot and revisit the area or whatever the location was that you took the picture of. So essentially, my project idea saves the location of the user whenever they try to save a memory to the diary. It also needs to be able to display information specific to the location to the user. So this is going to tell the user the coordinates, and it's also going to give them the address. This would be really helpful for when they want to go back. The coordinates will help them find the exact spot, and the address would make it easy to punch into GPS and be able to get navigated, which the app actually also uh, gives you a direct link to the GPS. Another feature that it does is it gives you the weather for the location. So if you were to go back and visit, you know the exact weather and what kind of conditions it'll be for when you visit. And then the other one is actually provides the directions to the users. So it actually opens up the web browser with the information pre-filled in, and the user just has to accept their location rights. So it'll give them access, or it'll give the app permission to get their current location through the web browser and give you exact navigation to your location. So this is the class diagram for the project. When you first open the app, you're going to be greeted with a welcome page. It's essentially just going to have a image either from your diary, and if there's not any images, it's just going to I have a default picture that it's going to show. And there's going to be a button for enter. At first, the idea was, well, this could be a future implementation as well, where you have to log in just to kind of keep your diary more secret. But for now, I just included a button. Once you click into the button, you enter into the diary, and you're going to be greeted with a table. So the location table view controller handles all the actions for it. So from the location view controller, the actual table, you're able to add a new memory, see the list of your old memories that you saved, and each cell displays the picture. And from there, you can go into the memory and go to the next page and see whatever the memory was. And then for the UI table view, there's going to be the individual cell, and that cell is going to have a memory name that you can set, or it just uses the state from which you took the picture, and it just pre-fills it in for you. And then it also has the image of the memory, and it just pre-fills it in the table for you. And as far as the memory itself, that's handled by a location entity model, and the location entity has the name of the area, the description, holds the longitude and latitude, the coordinates, and address for displaying it later and feeding it into the web browser. And it also contains the image of the memory. Um, and that's for the location entity. And then there's another class for location entity core data properties, and that just gets that just fetches a request of the location entity, gets it, and it also maintains the properties of the location model. The location model itself just contains an array of the location entities, which is locations, and it's able to fetch the record, add new locations, remove them from the table view, and also get the location or get the object, which is essentially just going into the details of it. So after you add a location, you're able to go into the detail view controller, and this is just a detailed view. From the detail view, you'd be able to see the address parsed out and printed. It'll also tell you the coordinates, and it'll be able to tell from the detail view, and it'll show you the picture of the memory. After it these are just some of the functions for it. I have a parse and set label because once you actually use a geolocator and get all the information located to the coordinates, you have to parse out all that. There's a view button. The view button is going to take you to the map view controller. From the map view controller, you could get more detailed information on the location. And there's a image view in this specific detail view controller for showing the image. And then we have the memory label itself, which is just the detail from the location entity. And then once you do click the view button from the detail view controller, you're going to be moved to the map view controller. And the map view controller has a geolocator for because you have to feed the web API specific coordinates that weren't saved in the location entity exactly. So once we extracted that, we parse out the information from the web API call and give you the weather. So the weather will display with the map, and the map will have a pinpoint, or it'll have an annotation of the exact location of where it was took, and it'll be annotated. There's also a memory label that goes at the top of the map to just to show the user more detail, and there's a button from the map view controller that opens up the browser. That's the open browser that you can see right here, and it'll pre-fill the destination for the user, and all they have to do is accept the permission to pre-fill in their current location. And then there's also a convert country function. This is just for the web API. It doesn't use like AZ. It uses different prefixes for different countries, like in Tokyo and in other locations. Since this app can be used just about anywhere, as far as the debugging options is concerned, I'm sure there's maybe some other states or countries we have to keep, or we would need to add to that function. And then we also had the add location view controller. From the add location view controller, you access that from the table itself to add a new memory. And in here, you're going to have a UI image view, and this is just going to be where your image shows when you choose it or take a picture. You're also going to have the memory name, which you can go ahead and give it a title. If you don't give it a title, it defaults to the state just to kind of organize it. It's also going to have a longitude and latitude. This displays the exact coordinates of where you are and when you save the image. And this will just kind of show the user exactly where it is. And then if there's any errors where for some reason it can't grab the location, this won't show and the user will know that nothing's getting placed. We're also going to have a get location. Oh, these are just some of the functions for the geolocator, just to get the location. We have the image picker itself. The user can either choose it from the camera or the current library. And then after they pre-fill the conditions, they could save it. And this is going to get saved in a location entity or a location model. And it'll be saved in a core data for later viewing. And that's essentially the class diagram and the flow of the application. And then this is the MVC diagram. The view controller has a few different capabilities or responsibilities. It reacts to all the user taps. It handles all the buttons. It allows the user to either take a picture or choose an existing picture. It displays all the tables, the information, just about everything for the user related to the memory itself. And then it's also responsible for navigating the user to the browser where it's pre-filled in for the user to get navigated to their location from their current location. And the view just updates the controller, and it tells the controller whenever the user is trying to add something new and when to update the model. Because the view never talks to the model directly, the controller is the one that updates the model or fetches model or notifies anything to the model when there's changes made by the user in the view. And then some of the user actions that they can do from the view is tap controller buttons, use navigation controls, view data table cells, view and pick collection of images taken, swipe and view different controllers, delete entries, add entries, and just about anything that the app would allow. And then the controller responsibilities, this actually gets the pictures from the core storage or the model. It also gets any of the related information needed to print out for like the web API call. You need to know the coordinates and information and the state and such like that. So it also retrieves that sort of information from the model. Um, Another thing that it does is it handles user tabs and interactions, and it handles saving data and retrieving information. And then this is also updates whenever there's a new memory name, new pictures, or new longitude and latitude, because the user could edit it, but I mean, if you want the exact location, then there's no point to edit it, but that's also an option. And the model just notifies the controller of any changes and vice versa. And this is essentially the MVC diagram. Again, the view and the model never directly talk to each other. They're always going through the controller and they're notifying each other back and forth. So as far as the capabilities of the app, each memory can easily be saved, and you could either take a picture or not. And if you don't take a picture, you get essentially this default picture. Because sometimes, like this is just one scenario. Like let's say you were to get not or like kidnapped, or you need or like it's an emergency, and you don't really care for the image, and you just want the location, or you just want to go back, and there's not really a memory attached to it. you can just save the location as well. And it also saves the exact coordinates for later use and displaying it in other views. So this is essentially the capabilities of these two views. You can see the table itself. It shows your memories, and you could add new entries. And once you actually try to add, you can choose from the camera or from the library of images you already have on your phone. The next capabilities is it displays the address of the location, so it parses out everything from the geolocator and shows it to the user. It also puts a pinpoint right in the middle of the map of where the memory was, and it makes a web API call to get the current weather, and it'll display right below. And like I said, this works in various countries, not just the United States, and that's pretty useful because it's not just areas where in the United States where you want to know the memory of. And then some of the limitations for it, or and actually here you can see the map, and this specific one, the debugger put me in California, so I'm going to get a navigation to California, and it's pre-filled in for me depending on the location of where I currently was. Some of the limitations of the application is I didn't allow anything as far as edits, or you can't edit any of the entries, which would be cool. But if it's a memory, I figured, it's just an entry. So perhaps we wouldn't want to allow edits of memories. It'd be better just to delete. And then another one is it's all the data is stored locally. If we were to use an online cloud or something like Firebase, we would be able to save everything there. And then if the user were to lose their phone or get a new phone, they could easily retrieve all their memories and not lose them. Where right now everything's stored locally, so if something did happen to the phone, you wouldn't have access to your old memories. Another limitation is that it's currently using Apple Maps, and while Apple Maps has improved a little bit in the past, Google Maps tends to be a little bit more user friendly. So if I would have learned prior how to use Google Maps easier than Apple Maps, I would have definitely incorporated Google Maps. So that's definitely one of the limitations. And then as far as some of the lessons learned, I learned how to update the entities in real time. For some reason, there's some synchronization issues when it comes to it, especially when you're messing with web API calls or geolocators. Like if you don't have internet, you do. So it's important to know exactly how to do that, and I did learn how to do that while making this application. Another one is how to properly synchronize web API calls, because there was a lot of instances where the app would work 1 second, and then the next time I ran it, it didn't work, and there would be a crash. And I later found out that it was actually a synchronization error, and we had to you had to do it in a specific way to make sure you get the reply before you try to use the data. Another one was how to design the MVC and then make the application based off that. Like everybody usually, or every time I've tried to design an application, I just go for prototypes. And in this one, you had to design the class diagram, the MVC. So you actually I worked from the other way up, and it was cool to try to pre-plan everything, and it helps you sort of encounter issues beforehand or some functions you might need since you did work from the MVC design to the application. And then another one was given an idea, we can build an application from the ground up using proper software development techniques with the MVC controller and as far as the proper synchronization and web API calls. This was definitely a cool experience as far as using proper software development techniques, using like MVC architecture and designing class diagrams. And then some suggestions for improvements for the application. Like I said, it'd be cool to have for the user to edit entries. Really, the only thing they'd probably edit is the image or maybe the description of it. But that'd be a cool improvement for it. Another one would be to allow the users to organize their entries by like specific locations. So like everything that happened in Arizona or California, it'd be cool to be able to allow the user to organize it in whatever preference they'd like. And then another cool improvement that would be was like the overall UI and aesthetic look. Um, this is the first time I ever used Swift, and I'm sure there's specific ways to make it a little bit cleaner and make the whole UI a little bit more user friendly. So that's another improvement. And then, like I mentioned earlier, it'd be cool to use Firebase so you don't lose any of your memories. If you were to lose your phone or anything like that, you could easily retrieve it. Overall, it was a really cool learning experience, and thank you for watching my presentation.